Lieutenant John Miller stood at his communications station aboard the United Earth Alliance starship Defiant, watching the massive space station grow larger on the view screen. The Galactic Council headquarters was a marvel of engineering, a spinning wheel of metal and light that housed representatives from 17 different species. John felt a flutter of excitement in his stomach. This was humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Council, and he was part of it. "Status report," Captain Lisa Ryan said, her voice calm and measured as she straightened her uniform. "All systems normal, Captain," John replied. "The Council has granted us docking permission at Bay 12. They've assigned us a liaison who will meet us there." Captain Ryan nodded. She was a tall woman with gray-streaked dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun. 20 years of military service had given her a commanding presence that filled the bridge. "Remember, everyone," she addressed the bridge crew. "We represent all of humanity today. First impressions matter." The Defiant glided smoothly into the docking bay, mechanical arms extending to secure the Earth vessel in place. John checked his console one more time before following Captain Ryan and the diplomatic team to the airlock. The alien that greeted them had 6 limbs and skin that shimmered with iridescent scales. 2 of its arms extended in what seemed like a greeting gesture. "Welcome to the Galactic Council Station," the alien said through a translator device. "I am Zexler of the Athalian Confederation, assigned as your guide and liaison during your stay." Captain Ryan stepped forward. "Thank you for your welcome, Zexler. I am Captain Lisa Ryan of the United Earth Alliance starship Defiant. We are honored to represent Earth in these diplomatic talks." Zexler's head tilted slightly. "The Council awaits. Please follow me." As they walked through the station's wide corridors, John couldn't help staring at the variety of alien life forms they passed. Some floated in personal atmosphere bubbles, others walked on tentacles or multiple legs, and a few seemed to glide along on cushions of energy. "First time seeing non-humans?" Zexler asked John, noticing his wide eyes. "Yes," John admitted. "We've only had contact with 2 species before now, and nothing like this." He gestured at a being that appeared to be made entirely of shifting crystal formations. "You will find the galaxy full of surprises," Zexler said. "Though I must warn you, not all Council members are excited about human inclusion. Some see you as primitive." Captain Ryan kept her expression neutral. "We understand. New members always face scrutiny." The Council chamber was a vast circular room with tiered seating. Representatives from each species sat in sections marked with their planetary symbols. In the center was a raised platform where speakers could address the assembly. As the human delegation was announced, John noticed many aliens leaning forward in their seats, studying the newcomers with what he interpreted as curiosity or disdain. The Council leader, a tall, willowy being with 4 arms and skin like polished obsidian, stepped forward. "We welcome the representatives of Earth to this Galactic Council session." The leader's voice echoed through the chamber. "You come to us as potential allies, though your species is young in interstellar terms." Captain Ryan stepped onto the speaking platform. "We thank the Council for this opportunity. Earth and its colonies are eager to join the galactic community and contribute to its continued peace and prosperity." A harsh laugh interrupted her. A blocky reptilian alien with red scales and a heavy exoskeleton armor rose from its seat. "Peace? Prosperity? The humans know nothing of either," the alien said. "Their own history is bathed in blood. Their technology is centuries behind most Council races. What can they possibly offer?" John recognized the insignia on the alien's armor. This was a Vraxian from the warrior empire that controlled nearly a dozen star systems at the galaxy's edge. Captain Ryan remained composed. "It is precisely because of our history that we value peace so highly, representative of Vrax. And while our technology may not match yours in all areas, we have innovations of our own to share." The Vraxian commander, who introduced himself as Drakthor, moved closer. "Humans are emotional, unpredictable. Their communication patterns are inefficient. Observer ships report that human vessels waste considerable energy on personal conversations between crew members during operations." John exchanged glances with Chief Engineer Paul Garcia, who raised an eyebrow at the criticism. Different species have different command styles. Captain Ryan replied diplomatically. Indeed, Drakthor said with what appeared to be a sneer. Perhaps humans would make good protectorate species under Vraxian guidance. We could teach you proper military discipline. The comment sent a ripple of murmurs through the chamber. John noticed Captain Ryan's slight hand signal. Continue observation. Maintain diplomatic posture. Over the next several hours, presentations were made about Earth's history, culture, and technological capabilities. Throughout the proceedings, John noticed something odd about the alien representatives. When discussing tactical matters or defense scenarios, they communicated constantly, sending signals, chattering openly about positions, broadcasting their thoughts. During a break in the proceedings, John mentioned this to Zexler. I couldn't help noticing how much communication happens during tactical discussions. Zexler's scales rippled in what might have been surprise. Of course. How else would coordinated action be possible? All civilized species maintain continuous communication during battle operations. It's the foundation of effective warfare. John thought about Earth's military history, about ambushes and stealth operations, about radio silence and the element of surprise. He thought about how human soldiers learned to communicate with hand signals and how special forces teams operated, with minimal verbal exchange. Interesting, was all he said. Later, as the human delegation was shown to their quarters on the station, Captain Ryan gathered her team. Impressions? She asked. They underestimate us, Paul Garcia said immediately. The Vraxians especially. They broadcast everything, John added. Military positions, tactical plans, they don't seem to understand the concept of communication security. Or they operate so differently that what seems like a weakness to us is their strength, Captain Ryan cautioned. We need to learn more, before drawing conclusions. As the meeting broke up, John found Zexler waiting outside. Lieutenant Miller, if you have time, I would appreciate learning more about human communication protocols, the alien said. Your species fascinates me. John smiled. I'd be happy to explain, though I'm not sure how interesting you'll find our methods. Oh, I find all new species interesting, Zexler said. Especially ones that the Vraxians are so quick to dismiss. In my experience, those often turn out to be the most surprising. John didn't know it yet, but those words would prove more prophetic than either of them could imagine. 3 months passed aboard the Galactic Council station. The human delegation had settled into a routine of diplomatic meetings, cultural exchanges, and technical discussions. Lieutenant John Miller had grown accustomed to the constant hum of alien languages and the strange food in the communal dining hall. He had also developed a friendship with Zexler, who seemed genuinely interested in human culture. On this particular morning, John was explaining the concept of poker to Zexler in the station's recreation area. So you intentionally hide information from other players? Zexler asked, his scales shifting to a puzzled blue color. That's the whole point, John said with a smile. If everyone knew what cards you had, there would be no game. Zexler's translator device made a sound like a confused whistle. Fascinating. Most council species find information concealment disturbing, yet humans make games of it. Their conversation was interrupted by a station-wide alert. Red lights pulsed along the corridors, and a calm automated voice spoke in multiple languages. Attention, all personnel. Distress signal received from Science Outpost Kappa 7. All council representatives, please report to emergency session. John's communicator buzzed with a message from Captain Ryan. Miller, bridge now. When John arrived at the Defiance bridge, the command crew was already assembled. Captain Ryan stood at the center reviewing data on a holographic display. What's happening? John asked Chief Engineer Garcia, who stood nearby. Science Outpost under attack, Garcia replied quietly. Some species called the Krell. Apparently they're raiders who steal advanced technology. Captain Ryan looked up. Miller, good. I need you monitoring all communication channels. The Council has requested our assistance in the defense effort. On the main view screen, John could see several alien ships preparing to depart. The largest belonged to the Vraxians, its hull bristling with weapon ports. The Vraxian battlecruiser Conqueror is leading the response fleet, Lieutenant Howard reported from Tactical. They're requesting we take position on their starboard flank. Acknowledged, Captain Ryan said. Take us out, Helm. Tactical. Shields at maximum but weapons powered down until we assess the situation. As the Defiant pulled away from the station, John was surprised to find Zexler entering the bridge. Captain, Zexler said, the Council requested I accompany your ship as observer and liaison. Captain Ryan nodded. Very well. Lieutenant Miller, please find our guest a non-essential station where he can observe without interfering with operations. As they approached the science outpost, the situation became clear. 3 Krell ships, aggressive-looking vessels with spiked protrusions, were attacking the small research station. The outpost's shields were failing. John's communication console lit up with incoming transmissions. The Vraxians are broadcasting their attack plan on open channels, he reported with disbelief. They're announcing their weapon targeting, shield distribution, and formation changes. Can the Krell hear this? Captain Ryan asked. Yes, ma'am. It's on standard frequencies, everyone can hear it. Captain Ryan's expression hardened. Interesting approach to combat. She pressed her command console. All hands, Combat Protocol 0 is now in effect. Repeat Protocol 0. Acknowledge. Throughout the ship, crew members responded with brief confirmations. Then the Defiant went quiet. No chatter on internal channels, no unnecessary communications. Only essential status updates delivered in clipped, precise language. Zexler moved closer to John's station. What is happening? Why have your people stopped talking? Is there a system failure? John shook his head. No failure. This is normal procedure for human ships in combat situations. The alien seemed disturbed. But how will you coordinate? The Vraxian commander is directing each of his weapon operators individually. We don't need to, John replied simply. Everyone knows their job. On the view screen, the battle was unfolding. The Vraxian ships moved in with heavy firepower, their commanders shouting orders continuously. The other Council species vessels followed similar patterns, constant streams of communication, tactical adjustments announced for all to hear, position, reports every few seconds. The Defiant moved differently. In eerie silence, the human ship glided into position. No broadcast of intentions, no announced maneuvers. When it fired, it did so without warning, its shots precisely targeting the propulsion systems of the nearest Krell vessel. Incoming fire, portside, Lieutenant Howard reported calmly. No one panicked. The helmsman adjusted course without being told. The shield technician reinforced the port barriers. The weapons officer recalibrated to compensate. Zexler watched in growing confusion. Why is no one giving orders? How does your helmsman know where to move? Training, John explained in a low voice. Drills, muscle memory. We practice until we don't need to talk. The battle continued for 20 tense minutes. The Krell, clearly confused by the human ship's silent approach, focused their fire on the more predictable Vraxian vessels. This gave the Defiant the opportunity to slip behind one of the Krell ships and disable its main power core with a surgical strike. Target neutralized, the weapons officer reported. Captain Ryan nodded. Move to assist the Athalian cruiser. With 2 of their ships disabled and the 3rd taking heavy damage, the Krell broke off their attack and jumped to faster than light speed, disappearing from the system. As soon as the threat was gone, Captain Ryan announced, Combat Protocol 0 lifted. Resume normal operations. The ship came back to life with conversation and standard communication protocols. Damage reports flowed in, none serious. Medical reported 2 minor injuries. Zexler stared at John. I have never seen anything like this. In the midst of battle, your ship went silent. It's standard human procedure, John explained. In combat, excessive communication can be a liability. It reveals position, intentions, and can cause confusion. The alien's scales had shifted to a pale yellow color, but all Council species communicate constantly during battle. It is how we coordinate. Different evolution, different methods, John said with a shrug. The communication console chimed. Incoming transmission from the Vraxian command ship, John reported. On screen, Commander Drakthor appeared. His red scales flushed darker with what might have been anger or excitement. "Human vessel," the Vraxian said. "Your battle techniques are unusual. You operated without proper command structure or communication protocols." Captain Ryan stood straight, hands clasped behind her back. "We operated according to human combat protocols, Commander. Our methods may differ from yours, but they are effective." "Indeed," Drakthor said slowly. "Most interesting. Perhaps we underestimated your species' potential usefulness to the Council." After the communication ended, Zexler approached Captain Ryan. "I must report this to the Council. Many will find your methods disturbing, even frightening." "Why frightening?" she asked. Zexler's scales rippled. "Because when your ship went silent, it became unpredictable. And in the galaxy, Captain Ryan, the unpredictable is always feared." News of the human ship's unusual battle tactics spread quickly through the Galactic Council. Some species responded with curiosity, others with concern. The Vraxians, however, reacted with something closer to alarm. Commander Drakthor stood before the Vraxian High Command. His scales darkened to a deep crimson as he concluded his report on the Krell incident. "The humans operate without continuous tactical communication," he explained. "Their ship went silent during combat, making their movements impossible to predict." Grand Marshal Vorkath, leader of the Vraxian military forces, leaned forward on his throne. "A primitive trick, nothing more. No advanced civilization could function without proper command structures. With respect, Grand Marshal, they were effective. While our ships took moderate damage, the human vessel emerged unscathed." Vorkath's clawed hand tightened around his ceremonial staff. "You suggest these newcomers are superior warriors?" "Suggest they are different," Drakthor chose his words carefully. "And potentially dangerous to our interests. If they join the Council, our influence may be diminished." "Then they must not join," Vorkath declared. "Arrange an incident. It appear as though the humans have violated Council protocols." Back on the Galactic Council station, Lieutenant John Miller was showing Chief Engineer Paul Garcia some unusual readings he had discovered. "Look at these transmission patterns from the Vraxian fleet," John said, pointing to his data pad. "They've increased secure communications by 300% since the Krell attack." Paul stroked his beard thoughtfully. "They're talking about us." "And they're worried," John added. Their conversation was interrupted when Captain Ryan called an emergency meeting of the senior staff. When they assembled in the Defiance conference room, her expression was grave. "I've just received word from Ambassador Brown," she began. "The Vraxians have accused Earth of attacking one of their outposts near the Centauri border." Lieutenant Howard, the tactical officer, straightened in his chair. "That's impossible. No Earth ships are deployed in that sector. The Vraxians have presented evidence, visual recordings of a ship with Earth Alliance markings firing on their outpost." Captain Ryan continued. "The Council is in emergency session now, debating sanctions against Earth." "It's fabricated," Paul said immediately. "Has to be." Captain Ryan nodded. "Almost certainly. But we need proof." Paul leaned forward. "If I could examine their evidence, I might be able to find signs of tampering." "That's your assignment, then," Captain Ryan said. "Lieutenant Miller, continue monitoring Vraxian communications. Lieutenant Howard, I want you to discreetly track Vraxian ship movements near our colonies." As the meeting broke up, Zexler was waiting outside. The Athalian's scales had taken on a dull gray color that John had come to recognize as worry. "I have been instructed to inform you that the Council has suspended all diplomatic talks until this incident is resolved," Zexler said. "Many representatives are calling for your immediate departure from Council space." "Do you believe these accusations?" John asked directly. Zexler's head tilted. "I have observed your species for 3 months. You are sometimes strange, but not foolish. Attacking a Vraxian outpost would be foolish." "Thank you for that, at least," John said. Over the next 2 days, tensions escalated rapidly. More Vraxian ships arrived at the station, taking up positions that Lieutenant Howard described as tactically concerning. Communications from Earth became increasingly alarmed as reports came in of Vraxian vessels approaching Earth's outer colonies. In the Defiance engineering lab, Paul worked tirelessly on the Vraxian evidence. Late on the second night, he called Captain Ryan and John to show them his findings. "Look here," he said, pointing to a section of the video recording. "The propulsion signature of this supposed Earth ship is wrong. The energy pattern doesn't match any human engine design." He switched to another screen. "And here, the weapons fire. The spectral analysis shows Vraxian energy signatures, not human ones. They fired on their own outpost and edited the recording to show Earth markings on the attacking ship." Captain Ryan's expression hardened. "Get this to Ambassador Brown immediately. We need to present this to the Council before." She was interrupted by an alert from the bridge. "Captain to the bridge, priority 1. When they arrived, Lieutenant Howard was at the tactical station, his face pale. "Vraxian ships have opened fire on our Europa colony, Captain. The settlement reports heavy damage and casualties." "Hail the Vraxian command ship," Captain Ryan ordered. The communication officer tried repeatedly but shook her head. "No response, Captain. They're ignoring all channels." "What about the Council?" "The Council chamber is in chaos," another officer reported. "Some species are demanding the Vraxians stand down, others are supporting them. There's no consensus." Captain Ryan stood silent for a moment, then straightened her uniform. "Send word to Earth Command. The Vraxians have initiated hostile action against an Earth colony." She took a deep breath. "All hands, prepare for combat. Activate Protocol 0. Throughout the Defiant, alerts sounded. Crew members moved with practiced efficiency, their faces set with determination. Conversations ceased. Unnecessary communications ended. The ship went silent. On the bridge, Zexler watched with growing concern. "Captain Ryan, what are you doing?" "What we must," she replied simply. The Athalian's scales pulsed with agitation. "The Vraxian fleet outnumbers you 20-1. You cannot fight them alone." "We won't be alone for long," Captain Ryan said. "Earth's defense fleet has been on standby since the false accusations began." Zexler moved closer. "You knew this might happen?" "We hoped it wouldn't," John explained. "But we prepared anyway." On the main view screen, they could see several Vraxian ships changing position, moving to block the Defiant's path to the jump point that would allow them to return to Earth. "They're trying to isolate us," Lieutenant Howard observed quietly. Captain Ryan nodded. "Helm, plot course to the secondary jump point. Lieutenant Miller, broadcast our evidence of Vraxian deception on all Council frequencies." As the Defiant began to move, several Council species ships that had been observing the situation suddenly began to withdraw, creating distance between themselves and the Vraxian vessels. "What's happening?" John asked, noting the sudden movement. Zexler's scales had paled to almost white. "They saw your ship go silent. They remember what happened with the Krell." For the first time since the crisis began, Captain Ryan allowed herself a small smile. Fear can be useful sometimes. The Athalian liaison looked at the silent, focused human crew. "It's not just fear," he said quietly. "It's understanding. My people have a saying, know the signs of the storm before the winds blow. Your silence is such a sign." As the Defiant accelerated toward the jump point, reports came in from Earth Command. The defense fleet had mobilized. Earth colonies were on high alert. And throughout human space, military communications had gone silent except for essential tactical information. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans went silent not just on one ship, but across an entire fleet. Defense Coordinator Sam Turner sat in the dimly lit command center of Earth's military headquarters. Red alert warnings flashed on screens around him, but the room was strangely quiet. Officers moved with purpose, communicating with nods, handy signals, and occasional whispered words. The usual chatter of a busy command center was absent. Sam studied the holographic display showing the Vraxian fleet's position near Europa. 20 ships, heavily armed, with more arriving. Earth's colony on the Jovian moon had already suffered significant damage. Status of the response fleet? Sam asked, his voice low. Alpha Group will reach Europa in 30 minutes, his aide replied. Beta and Gamma groups are in position behind Saturn awaiting your command. Sam nodded. The plan was simple but effective. Alpha Group would engage the Vraxians directly, drawing their attention, while Beta and Gamma groups would outflank them. From Saturn's shadow, the key was silence. The Vraxians must not know about the ships hiding behind the ringed planet. Communication status? Protocol 0 activated across all ships and stations. Only essential tactical data is being transmitted, using encoded burst transmissions. Sam allowed himself a small smile. And the Vraxians? Broadcasting continuously on all standard frequencies. They're coordinating their attack on Europa in the open. They still don't understand, Sam said softly. Good. In space near Europa, Lieutenant Commander Jane Williams watched the approaching Vraxian ships from the bridge of the Earth Alliance cruiser Valiant. Her ship led Alpha Group, the smallest of Earth's 3 response fleets. Weapons status? She asked. All weapons hot, Commander, her tactical officer replied. Enemy ships in range in 5 minutes. Jane studied the Vraxian formation. Their ships moved in a tight pattern with constant communication between vessels. Their command structure was rigidly hierarchical, with the flagship directing every move of the smaller ships. Target their communications arrays first, Jane ordered. Then, their command ship. Yes, Commander. The bridge crew worked in practiced silence. Each person knew their role without needing constant direction. Years of drills and real combat experience had made them a seamless unit. Jane activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, engage combat protocols. We are the bait. Make it look good. The Valiant and the 5 ships of Alpha Group accelerated toward the Vraxian fleet. As they came into weapons range, they opened fire in a coordinated attack that appeared desperate and aggressive. The Vraxians responded with overwhelming force, just as Jane had anticipated. Their superior numbers allowed them to easily surround. Alpha Group pouring fire into the Earthship's shields. Shields at 60%, reported the defensive systems officer. Continue the attack, Jane ordered calmly. Make them think we're the only response Earth could muster. The Vraxian commander's voice boomed over the open communication channels, directing his ships to press their advantage. The humans are weak. Crush their pathetic fleet and we will move on to their homeworld. Jane's communication officer looked up. Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy readings behind Saturn. Beta and Gamma groups are on the move. Right on schedule, Jane said. Now we hold their attention for 5 more minutes. Behind Saturn, 15 Earthships moved silently into position. Lieutenant Nick Howard stood on the bridge of the Intrepid, the lead ship of Beta Group. He watched as the Vraxian fleet concentrated their fire on Jane's ships, completely unaware of the threat approaching from behind. All ships in position, his tactical officer reported quietly. Nick nodded. Commence attack on my mark. He waited until the Earthships were perfectly aligned for maximum impact. Mark. 15 ships emerged from Saturn's shadow, weapons blazing. They targeted the Vraxian ships' communication arrays first, as planned. Within seconds, 7 Vraxian vessels lost their ability to receive commands from their flagship. The Vraxian fleet erupted in chaos, their communication channels filled with confused shouts and contradictory orders. Without clear direction from their commander, the ships began to move erratically. It's working, Nick said to his bridge crew. They can't function without constant communication. On the Valiant, Jane saw her opportunity. Alpha Group, target the Vraxian flagship, all weapons. The 6 ships of Alpha Group, despite their damaged shields, converged their fire on the Vraxian command vessel. Its powerful shields buckled under the concentrated assault. Back in Earth's command center, Sam Turner watched the battle unfold on his tactical display. The human ships moved with coordinated precision, barely communicating yet functioning as a single unit. The Vraxian fleet, by contrast, was in disarray, their rigid command structure falling apart without constant communication. They're breaking formation, his aide reported. 4 Vraxian ships have retreated from the battle. Sam nodded. And the evidence of their deception? Transmitted to all council species. Several have acknowledged receipt and are dispatching observers to verify our claims. On the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Kelly Brown stood before the emergency session of the council. Behind her, a large screen showed Paul Garcia's analysis of the faked attack evidence. As you can see, she said firmly, the Vraxians attacked their own outpost and falsified evidence to blame Earth. They then launched an unprovoked attack on our colony. The council chamber filled with the sounds of multiple species talking at once. The Athalian representative rose to speak. We have observed the human response to this aggression, the Athalian said. Their ships move in silence, coordinating, without constant communication. It is unsettling but effective. The Vraxian representative, a junior officer named Kravtor, slammed his fist on the table. Their methods violate all accepted combat protocols. No civilized species fights in silence. Zexler, now serving as a special advisor on human affairs, stepped forward. Perhaps that is why they are winning. The Galactic Council's leader called for order. We have verified the human evidence. The Vraxian attack was indeed unprovoked and based on falsified information. We call for an immediate ceasefire. Back at Europa, the battle had turned decisively in Earth's favor. With their command structure disrupted and 7 ships disabled, the Vraxian fleet was retreating. The Earth ships pursued at a distance, maintaining their silent combat protocol. On the Valiant, Jane allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Signal Earth Command, Vraxian forces in retreat, Europa secured. Her communication officer nodded. Transmission sent. Then he paused, listening to his earpiece. Commander, we're receiving a message from the Galactic Council. They're ordering a ceasefire. The Vraxians have been officially censured for their actions. Acknowledged, Jane said. All ships maintain positions but hold fire unless fired upon. As the Earth ships formed a protective perimeter around Europa, Jane looked out at the stars. The silence of human combat had proved its worth once again. She wondered if the Vraxians had learned their lesson, or if this was just the beginning of a longer conflict. Either way, the galaxy now knew what happened when humans went silent in combat, and what inevitably came next. 1 week after the battle at Europa, Captain Lisa Ryan stood outside the Galactic Council's main chamber. The massive doors were carved with symbols representing each member species. Soon, she would walk through those doors to explain human combat methods to the assembled representatives. Nervous? John Miller asked, adjusting his formal uniform. Concerned, Lisa replied. We're not here to apologize for how we fight, but to make them understand. Ambassador Kelly Brown approached, datapad in hand. The Council is ready for you, Captain. Remember, this isn't a trial. The Vraxians have been officially censured. This is an informational session. Lisa nodded. I understand. The doors swung open. Lisa, John, and Kelly entered the circular chamber. All 17 species had representatives present, their attention focused on the humans. In the Vraxian section, Commander Drakthor sat with several military advisors, his scales a dull red with suppressed anger. The council leader gestured to the central platform. Captain Ryan, please address the council regarding human combat methodology. Lisa stepped onto the platform, standing tall despite the weight of so many alien gazes. Honorable representatives of the Galactic Council, she began, I am here to explain why humans fight the way we do. Our combat methods were not developed to disturb or frighten you, but to ensure our survival. She activated a holographic display showing Earth. Our planet has a long history of warfare. For thousands of years, human armies fought each other. Through bitter experience, we learned valuable lessons. The display changed to show ancient human soldiers hiding in forests, moving silently. Early in our history, we discovered that silence could be a powerful weapon. Those who announced their positions or intentions often lost. Those who moved quietly, who communicated only when necessary, survived. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. The concept seemed to disturb them on a fundamental level. As our technology advanced, this principle remained true, Lisa continued. In our naval battles, radio silence often meant the difference between victory and defeat. Submarines, underwater vessels, operated in complete silence to avoid detection. Though, Vraxian Representative Drakthor interrupted. This is primitive thinking. Modern warfare requires constant coordination, continuous tactical adjustments. Lisa remained calm. Different evolutionary paths lead to different methods, Commander. What works for your species may not work for mine. Dr. Olivia Jones, a human xenobiologist who had been studying council species, stepped forward with Lisa's permission. If I may, she said, activating her own display. I believe I can explain the biological basis for this difference. The display showed evolutionary trees for various council species. Most council species evolved from pack hunters, animals that hunted in groups, coordinating through constant communication, like the wolves or hyenas of Earth. The images shifted to show examples of these Earth animals hunting in packs, calling to each other. Humans, however, evolved from a different type of predator, Dr. Jones continued. While we did hunt in groups, we also developed skills as ambush predators, waiting silently, striking suddenly. She showed images of human ancestors using stealth to approach prey. This difference is reflected in our neural structures. Council species have more developed communication centers in their brains. Humans have more developed centers for individual action and non-verbal coordination. The council chamber was silent as the representatives absorbed this information. John leaned toward Zexler, who sat nearby. They're starting to understand, he whispered. Zexler's scales rippled with blue patterns of contemplation. Perhaps, but understanding doesn't always lead to acceptance. Captain Ryan continued her presentation, showing examples from Earth's military history. She explained hand signals used by special forces, the concept of radio silence, and the principle of mission-type tactics, giving subordinates a goal but letting them decide how to achieve it. In human combat operations, she explained, we brief thoroughly before the mission, ensuring everyone understands their role and the overall objective. Then, during execution, we minimize communication to avoid revealing our positions or intentions, Lisa. Then displayed footage from training exercises, showing human teams moving with minimal verbal exchange, using hand signals and prearranged protocols. We train until these actions become instinctive, she said. Each person knows what to do in various situations without needing constant direction. The Athalian representative raised a limb. But how do you adapt to changing battlefield conditions? Without continuous updates? We observe and adjust individually, Lisa replied. Each soldier or crew member is trained to make decisions based on the situation they face. We trust our people to use their judgment. This concept seemed to shock many council species. The idea of military personnel making independent decisions without explicit orders was clearly foreign to them. Drakthor rose again. Such methods are dangerous and unpredictable. They cannot be allowed in civilized space. Ambassador Brown stepped forward. With respect, Commander, the Council has already ruled that Earth's defense of its colony was justified. Our methods, while different from yours, proved effective. The Council leader called for order as various representatives began talking at once. When quiet returned, the leader addressed Captain Ryan. Your explanation is informative, Captain, but disturbing to many here. What you call tactical silence, many species perceive as a prelude to aggression. Lisa nodded in understanding. We recognize this cultural difference. However, we cannot change how we fight any more than you can change how your species breathe. These methods are ingrained in our military tradition and our biology. John watched the council members' reactions. Some seemed thoughtful, others uncomfortable. The Vraxians were openly hostile. A few species, including the Athalians, showed signs of genuine curiosity. We do not ask that you adopt our methods, Lisa concluded, only that you understand them. When human ships go silent in combat, it is not to frighten you. It is simply how we operate most effectively. After the presentation, John found himself standing with Zexler in a quiet corner of the chamber. Your captain explained well, Zexler said. Yet many council species remain uneasy. Change is often uncomfortable, John replied. We don't expect immediate acceptance. Zexler's scales shifted to a pattern John hadn't seen before. The Vraxians will not let this rest. They see your combat methods as a direct challenge to their military dominance. We don't want conflict, John said. We just want to join the galactic community on equal terms. Equal, perhaps, Zexler said thoughtfully. But many now see humans as something more concerning, unpredictable. In a galaxy that values order and communication, your silence makes you dangerous in their eyes. John looked across the chamber where Captain Ryan was speaking with the council leader. Sometimes being seen as dangerous isn't entirely bad, he said quietly, especially when you're the newcomer. Zexler's eyes blinked slowly. An interesting perspective, Lieutenant Miller. I begin to understand why the Vraxians fear your kind. The council session concluded, one thing was clear. Earth's place in the galactic community had fundamentally changed. The whispers throughout the chamber confirmed what John already knew. When humans went silent in combat, the galaxy now understood what came next, and they were afraid. 6 months passed since Earth's confrontation with the Vraxian Empire. The Galactic Council had officially welcomed humans as junior members, though tensions remained with several species. Earth ships traveled more freely through Council space, and cultural exchanges had begun between humans and more curious alien civilizations. Admiral Ben Carter stood on the bridge of the Earth Alliance flagship Resolute, reviewing reports from the Fifth Fleet's patrol of the outer systems. At 62, Ben was one of Earth's most experienced military commanders, his weathered face telling the story of dozens of conflicts and peacekeeping missions. Admiral, his communications officer called out. Priority message from Galactic, Council headquarters. Ben nodded. Put it through. The main view screen activated, showing the Council leader's obsidian face. Admiral Carter, we face an emergency that requires immediate action. A Krell invasion force has bypassed our outer defenses and is approaching the Council core worlds. Their fleet is larger than any we have encountered before. Ben straightened. How did they get past your defense network? They have adapted to our tactics, the Council leader said, voice grave. They monitored our communications and predicted our movements. 3 defense fleets have already been defeated. The Vraxians suffered heavy losses when their battle commands were intercepted and countered. And you want Earth's help, Ben stated simply. Yes, the Council formally requests Earth's military assistance under the Mutual Defense Clause of our membership agreement. Ben didn't hesitate. The Fifth Fleet is on patrol near the Arcturus jump point. We can reach the core worlds in 14 hours. Relief showed on the Council leader's alien features. Thank you, Admiral. After the communication ended, Ben turned to his staff. Send word to all ships. Prepare for combat operations. And contact Earth Command. I want representatives from interested Council species brought aboard for crash training in human combat protocols. His executive officer looked surprised. Sir? We're going to teach them our methods? Ben smiled slightly. Sometimes survival outweighs tradition. Let's see which species are willing to learn. 12 hours later, the Resolute had representatives from 5 Council species aboard. Athalians, Centauri, Norva, Tellarites, and surprisingly, 2 Vraxian junior officers sent by the Vraxian High Command despite their public disdain for human tactics. Zexler, now serving as the official Athalian liaison to Earth, stood with the alien group in the ship's training center as Lieutenant John Miller explained the basics of silent combat operations. The first principle is simple, John told them. Communicate everything important before battle begins. During combat, speak only when absolutely necessary. A Vraxian officer named Shenva crossed his armored arms. This goes against everything we know about warfare. That's exactly why it might work, John replied. The Krell have adapted to your methods. They haven't adapted to ours. He activated a simulation showing a standard Council fleet in battle, with constant communication between ships. Here's what the Krell expect, John explained. They listen to your transmissions, predict your movements, and counter them before you execute. The simulation shifted to show human ships operating with minimal communication. Our approach gives them nothing to intercept, no advance warning of our intentions, no command structure to disrupt. Zexler moved his 6 limbs in a gesture of understanding. We must unlearn habits ingrained over thousands of years of evolution and military tradition. In just a few hours, added a Centauri representative, her crystalline body glimmering with skepticism. We don't expect perfection, John assured them. Just improvement. Every reduction in unnecessary communication helps. The training continued intensively as the Earth fleet approached the battlefield. The alien representatives practiced using prearranged signals, operating with mission-type orders, and making decisions without constant approval from superiors. Some adapted better than others. The Athalians, with their flexible thinking, grasped the concepts quickly. The Vraxians struggled the most but showed surprising determination to learn. When the fleet reached the jump point to the core systems, Admiral Carter called the alien representatives to the bridge. We enter combat in 30 minutes, he told them. Return to your ships and implement what you've learned as best you can. Remember, silence is not the absence of action. It's action without warning. Zexler approached. John, before departing, I will never be as silent as a human in battle, my friend. But I will try to be less predictable. John smiled. That's all we ask. As the representatives returned to their own vessels, Admiral Carter addressed the entire Earth fleet. All ships, prepare for Combat Protocol 0. The Krell expect us to fight like the other Council species. Let's show them how humans wage war. The Fifth Fleet, 30 ships strong, emerged from the jump point to find chaos. The Krell invasion force, over 50 vessels of various sizes, was engaged with the remnants of the Council defense fleet. Several core worlds were under attack by Krell landing parties. As soon as the human fleet arrived, communications throughout the system fell silent. No battle plans broadcast, no continuous updates, no frantic coordination. Just disciplined, efficient movement as the Earth ships split into prearranged attack formations. The Krell, confused by the sudden appearance of silent vessels, diverted ships to intercept this new threat. They transmitted orders continuously, just as they had when fighting other Council species. Admiral Carter watched from the Resolute's bridge as his ships engaged the enemy. Status of Allied vessels? Mixed results, sir, his tactical officer reported. The Athalians have reduced communications by 60%, the Centauri by 40%. The Vraxians are still chatty but have encrypted more of their transmissions. Progress? Ben nodded. Direct Alpha Wing to support the Athalian cruisers. Let's show them what coordinated silent combat looks like. The battle unfolded across the star system. Human ships struck from unexpected vectors, their movements unpredictable without radio chatter to telegraph their intentions. The Council, ships that had attempted to adopt human methods, performed noticeably better than those fighting traditionally. After 3 hours of intense combat, the tide began to turn. The Krell, unable to effectively counter the silent human ships and confused by the partially silent Council vessels, lost their cohesion. Their formation broke apart as individual Krell captains made contradictory decisions without a clear understanding of the overall battle. They're retreating from the 4th planet, reported the Resolute sensor officer. Ben allowed himself a small smile. Press the advantage. All ships, execute pattern Theta. The Earth fleet moved in perfect coordination to cut off the Krell's escape routes, while the Allied Council ships surrounded their flanks. Caught in the trap, the Krell invasion force was systematically dismantled over the next 2 hours. When the final Krell ship surrendered, Admiral Carter broke Protocol 0. All ships stand down from combat status. Well done, everyone. In the aftermath, the Council chambers were filled with excited discussion. The success of the combined defense had transformed many representatives' view of human combat methods. Several species formally requested permanent military advisors from Earth to train their forces. Even the Vraxians, proud and traditional, acknowledged the effectiveness of silent combat against the Krell. At a celebration held aboard the Galactic Council station, Admiral Carter found himself approached by a Vraxian commander. Your methods are still disturbing to us, the Vraxian said bluntly, but they are effective. How did your species develop such discipline? Ben considered the question. Through necessity and failure. We learned our hardest lessons by losing, battles by watching our plans fall apart when the enemy knew our intentions. The Vraxian nodded slowly. The Krell taught us a similar lesson today. Nearby, John Miller stood with Zexler, watching various species mingling with human officers. Things are changing, Zexler observed, his scales shimmering with blue and gold patterns of satisfaction. John nodded. The galaxy is realizing that there's more than one way to fight. And more than one way to communicate, Zexler added. Sometimes, the most important thing you can say is nothing at all. As the celebration continued, a new protocol was being formalized by the Council's military committee, Combat Protocol 0, named in honor of the human procedure that had saved the core worlds. Its first principle, translated into every Council language, read simply, "When words end, action begins."